Hello, Realtors. This is Tony Geraci, broker and owner of Century 21 Homestar. Today is Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. Now, first, before I get into this video, might get a little long. Please, this is going out to all agents, or at least in Ohio, because I know Ohio. If you want to talk to me about the changes coming up in real estate, please feel free to get on my calendar, go to tonytalk.net, tonytalk.net, and book a time with me. Put in the description what you want to talk about, and I'm happy to talk to any agent, especially our Century 21 Homestar agents, which I've been on the phone with every day, all day long for months about these changes coming up. So I wanted to get that out of the way. Second, the things I'm about to say are my opinions, my experiences, the things that I've been involved with as a real estate broker with Century 21 and the Ohio Association of Realtors and our local boards and National Association of Realtors and brokers all across the country. So I want to give you my opinions of things happening because every day I'm spending a lot of time explaining to agents how excited and how happy I am about these changes. And so many agents are hearing or feeling the things, and they're not hearing the things that I'm saying. And I'm going to say some things that are a little totally different views of other agents, but I want to give you, if you don't know me, I want to give you a little background. So I'm sorry, again, it's going to get a little long and I appreciate you watching, but it's very important that you do. It's very important. If anybody wants to see the silver lining, any agent out there wants to make more money and have more security with their buyers and sellers and in the future after these changes, listen to what I'm saying. So my experience, I've been in real estate 31 years. May 2022, 22, 23, 23. Right before my 23rd birthday, I got my real estate license. So I've been in it full time since then. I got my broker's license in 1999, 25 years ago, and started the office, me, myself, and I just by myself. And now manage and mentor and help over 500 agents all across Ohio with Century 21 Homestar. I've been part of, we sell on average about 2,000 or more homes a year. So in 20 some years, over 35,000 sales. I lost track in trillions of dollars in real estate I've been involved with as a broker and helping my agents with their transactions. So that gives you a little history. So I'm going to say some things that might ruffle some agents' feathers, that comes with experience over a long period of time. It's kind of like, bad example, it's kind of like saying, hey, I have someone that's been in the military, a bad example, for 15 years. So they're very experienced. I go, have they been in a major war? And they're like, no. Well, maybe their experience of being in the military and everything's fine, but they haven't actually seen combat. So that's how I feel with real estate is I'm talking to agents, and some have been in 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, and haven't been through a major change in real estate. And this change coming up is what I've been waiting for 30 years. And it's going to make it so many things better. But because of change, people are so nervous. Things are changing because you haven't been through change. Like right now, I have agents like, oh my God, the interest rates. I'm like, these are great interest rates. I started in real estate, they were just got ticked under 10%. And we sold lots of houses. There was a whole buying frenzy in the early 90s because the rates hit under 10% for the first time since the 70s. So it's all relative to what's happening out there. So I want to give you some history of why agents think the sky is falling, because it's always been that way when the major change came. So little story time. Bear with me. Thank you for listening, because when I explain this to a lot of my agents every day, then they get to feel better. Like, oh, yeah, that's not too bad. That's not, these are good. So when I got in real estate, there was no internet. There was actually cities in Northeast Ohio that wouldn't even allow real estate signs. So there's only the paper that a buy owner or agent could, paper or Homes magazine that someone could get at the grocery store, was the only way we could really market homes. If you couldn't even put a sign up front, is there a way to market a home for someone who's coming in from out of town? There's no way they could find out any homes without calling an agent. We controlled the data, what was on the market. So back then, I remember agents freaking out when more and more cities were saying this is discriminatory. We have to be let people, sellers, agents put signs in yards. And I had agents, I remember, oh my God, people are going to be able to drive up and down the street and see a sign, and people are going to sell houses themselves because they could just put a sign in the yard, and they didn't have to come to the real estate office or call the office to find out what houses were for sale. And people went, oh my gosh, every house in every city is going to have signs. Can you imagine? Second, a big change. There's many changes, but I'll hit some of the major ones. Internet. When the internet started, oh my gosh. Or let me even put this back when cell phones. Cell phones came out. And companies and agents, we used to always have our office phone number there. And we had to sit at our desk because everybody didn't have a cell phone, and they didn't, people. And then agents were going, this company, oh my God, that agent's got a cell phone, and they're getting their calls directly. Before, they used to call the office, and we would have floor time. That would be our buyer that would back in the day, we would sit there at floor time answering the phones because all of our listings had the office phone number, and anybody saw an ad or saw a sign, called the office, and that buyer was mine, the listing agent in the same office that was their seller. And we got deals. And all of a sudden, cell phones became popular. Oh my God, every agent's going to have their own number. They're not going to have to call the office. And then we're not going to get buyers because we just sit at the office, and they used to call the office. And then there was controversy with companies, and top agents would, certain companies would let their top agents put their name on the sign and not the bottom agents, and agents get mad and moving companies. So who would let them put their own phone number on signs? It was crazy, but big controversy. Then the internet came. Oh my God, we're going to share the data on the internet. And who are they going to call? The office? Can they call the office? And what they're going to be able to go on another company's website and find our listings and then call that company? That company can't advertise our listing. Let's opt out. I don't want to advertise our listings on other agents' websites, all of that. Then Zillow, then Realtor.com, and then ForSaleByOwners.com. Oh my God, people go crazy over change. This is going to ruin our industry. We're going to be out of business. Things like that. Oh my gosh, they need us for documents. And then people go to a website and download purchase agreements and probably disclosure agreements, and they could do it themselves. Oh my God, they're not going to need us as agents. And then agency laws changed. We used to always work for the buyer or seller, and now we have dual agency. And there was a time before consumer guide agency. There was a time before dual agency. There was a time where we all just worked for the seller. In Ohio, if you're watching this from somewhere else, it might be different there. But now to today, I'm skipping ahead. There's one problem in real estate for me that's been around forever, and it's about to change, and I'm so happy, is that we always, as agents, we would have a listing, and it was always a rule. We were trained this way, rule, law, whatever you want to say, that when you get a house for sale, you have to get a listing agreement. You just can't just show up to a house, throw up a sign, and I'm going to help you sell your house. No agreement whatsoever of what your duties are or what you're going to do, or lock them in saying, I'm exclusive to you and I'm going to earn this for doing these things, all these things. We just did it. We were just doing that. And with buyers, nothing, no rules other than one change, which was an upheaval at the time. Oh my God, a consumer guide to agency. We have to disclose to people that the different agency relationships we could get in, you're supposed to be doing this to all agents. And no, some of you forget this before you show a house or before you get in a discussion deeply with a buyer, you have to email them, send them, and have them sign or acknowledge a consumer guide to agency. You should be already having something signed by buyers before you do anything. Supposed to be. But before, we never had these things. People just willy-nilly go around with buyers, and we do that still to this day. Why? Why? I never understood why. You know why? You know why. Every time I train an agent, oh, by the way, you need especially if they're new and they don't know any different. Hey, by the way, and sometimes, sorry to say this as a broker, manager, coach, mentor, I just let them feel it out. Hey, by the way, this is required or really highly suggested by the office. Here's a buyer agreement. Have them sign. And I always wait for that call. You know what the call is? Hey, Tony, I have this buyer. I'm sending them this form. And they're like, what is this? They don't understand what this buyer agreement is for. And they've bought houses before, never had to sign an agreement. And then they're interviewing other agents, and no other agents are not saying it. And they're going to say they're not going to use me if I force them to sign some type of agreement with me. That's the thing. That's the one I will say only thing, or I'll say there might be some other reasons, but I don't even know what they are, of why buyers and buyers agents don't sign buyer's agreements. It's exactly like a listing agreement. It's actually better because, sorry to say this as a broker, hopefully don't hurt me for this. We know when you get a listing, especially in this market, if you get a listing and a buyer in this market, which one do you think you most likely will do a lot more work with and spend a lot more time with and spend a lot more money on? Gas, time, going places, things. Buyers, especially in this market. But why did we not say, hey, buyers, here's my agreement. No problem, let's do it. Well, because they're saying the buyers are not used to it. And they go, other agents I'm talking to don't do that. Now, thank God I'm saying is that now it will be a rule. And to tell any agents that are watching this, the state of Ohio is right behind this. If you haven't seen articles or get OAR articles, Ohio Association of Realtors or the division emails, they're about to make it a law, and thank God they are. So your license will be on the line when that happens. If you don't have a buyer agreement with a buyer, just like a listing agreement, before you show a house or start working with them, that could affect your license. They've been doing this in other states forever. And it's when I talk to brokers and agents in other states that have this so much easier. And that is a good thing. It's so good that we're doing this. So you as a buyer's agent get to sit down with a buyer, just like a listing, pretend it's like a listing in reverse and go, how much, these are all the services and all the things I'm going to do for you. And this is how much I charge, just like a seller. Now, guess what? Just like a listing, you get to decide who pays me. I know this has been a debate forever in real estate. When you have a listing, who pays for the commission? Who pays? Yes, it comes from the seller, but it possibly could come from the buyer. Let me tell you this, my opinion is that especially in this market, when it's seller's market, if a house sells for over asking price, there's no agent that's ever going to convince me the buyer's not paying the commission. They're paying over asking price. So where do who's paying for it? Again, that's a debate. But buyers now, you really get to decide who's paying for it. So let me get the verbiage and the theory behind this differently. When the buyer, and I say this to agents every day, and I start with this. They're like, oh my God, buyer's agreements. Yeah, but buyers never have to pay. Like, what? What do you mean the buyers don't have to pay? Like, no, the buyers don't have to pay. If you have an agreement, you and the buyer get to decide who pays at the time of the agreement. You write it right in there. If a buyer says, I can't afford to pay you, the buyer agreement to me, my theory behind it and what I promote to agents is that it's not the buyer having to pay you. The buyer is now responsible with your agreement to make sure you get paid. Does that make sense? The buyer is going to be contractually obligated to make sure you get paid from somebody, and you're going to put it in there. And a buyer says, hey, Tony, I want to write in here, I don't have the extra money to come up and pay you, or I have plenty of money, but there's no way I'm gonna, I don't want to spend a nickel on costs. I want to keep my costs down to a minimum because I have money in investments, or I want to put, fix up the house. I want to write in my buyer agreement, you make sure that all offers presented to any sellers that you're asking the seller to pay for it, because that's the house I want as a buyer. I only want to buy a house where the seller pays you. A buyer can do that. No one can stop them. So can a buyer force a seller to pay your commission? Yes. Yes. Here's the next thing, part of that. A buyer can force a seller to pay if they want that buyer. A buyer could say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, whatever seller, I want to buy your property, but it's required you pay my agent or I'm not buying your property. This is the one thing that agents are not understanding. The ones that are worried about this. I have no problem telling a buyer, who do you want to pay me? You want to pay me? Do you want a seller to pay me? Or do you want a combination of both? At a time of talking to them, you and the buyer get to decide how much you're going to pay and who's going to pay you. Now, okay, you're saying, right, what if? What if? Well, if that comes up, what if a seller says, I'm not? Well, go back to the buyer and have that conversation. Now what? What do you want to do? And some buyers say, move on to the next house. Some buyers might say, raise the price. Some buyers say, I'm firm on this because I know the seller has to sell and they're paying you, or I'm not buying this house. Same with buyers is very similar to buyers that have a pre-approval, but the lender said they need seller concessions or they can't afford this house. It's that serious. When you go into an offer and you tell the listing agent, hey, by the way, my buyer needs seller concessions, or don't even send me a counter offer because they won't get approved. Same thing. You go into the listing agent, go, hey, listing agent, by the way, I have an agreement with the buyer. They want the seller to pay. It's non-negotiable. They told me it's non-negotiable. Don't even bring me back a counter without the seller paying my fees. You can do that. You and your buyer can do that. It's up to the buyer. It's up to the buyer. If I'm the buyer, I don't care. I'm having the seller pay, and because I want to incorporate it in the sale, I'm not coming up with thousands and thousands of dollars to pay for my agent. I want my agent to get a good compensation. I want them to work for me. I want them to work hard, run me around, do everything it needs, and we're having an agreement to that. Can that agreement, like a listing agreement, that buyer agreement, can it be a day? Can it be for a property? Does it matter how much? No. No, that's just like the listings. And this, I'm telling you, this is what the next level to this that a lot of agents are not seeing is that we're giving the buyers, agents, and the buyers, we're taking the power back. Not back, we're finally getting the power of what the agents should get charged or get paid, and what the buyer wants the agent to get their agent to get paid. We're not leaving it up to a seller or a listing agent to tell us anymore. That's always been the case anyways, but just saying now, that's what I love. Can you just think of this theory that all this time we've been as buyers, agents, and buyers just going around to different listings and letting the seller and the listing agent discuss before they even meet you at the time of listing how much they want to compensate you. They don't know you. They don't know how hard you work. And this is the next thing that we as agents have to explain, my opinion, in this industry to sellers. You are not the You're not, as a seller, if a buyer and a buyer's agent, buyer's coming in, I want you to pay my agent, whatever. Remember, you explain this to your seller. You're not just paying them to sell your house. That's what sellers think. And there's a lot of agents. I say this to agents all the time. Is that what the seller's paying for? The buyer's agent just to sell their home? Is that what they're paying for? And almost everyone goes, yeah, that's what they're paying for. No, they are not. That's a small portion. They, the buyer's asking the seller to pay the compensation he owes their buyer's agent for all the work they have done in time and effort and expertise and counseling they have done from the day they met that buyer till they got right to sell to the end of the sale and the closing. Do you follow me? So we all know every buyer's agent, that timeline and the amount of work is different. But for some reason, in a listing, a listing and a seller will decide before they even know how much work a buyer has into this. So back to the theory, which I love, is that you're going to decide with your buyer at the time of starting work with how much time you think you're going to put in, what you're going to do for them between the time you show them a house, start working with them and the time you buy a house. And guess what? Again, my opinion, my legal opinion, or what we have in agent, you could have a scale. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, we're going to start showing you houses. If I have a week into it, a month into it, a year into it, 2 years into it, showing houses, offers, you can have a scale. You are an independent contractor. You're your own business. You are allowed to charge within reason whatever you want. And guess what? A lot of agents that have a lot of expertise and a lot of knowledge and are good at what they do are raising their prices. I have so many agents right now raising their prices. They're used to getting, they're looking back at their past business saying, I usually have received X, but my value is higher than that. I'm going to start charging more. This is not a time. We've not agreed to lower our prices. So I've been telling agents this, I'm telling the public this, and friends, relatives, oh my gosh, the 6% commission is gone. No, how we negotiate that at the time of listing is gone. Like, what do you mean? How we negotiate the commission at the time of a listing, it's kind of gone as you're changing that around. Some might want to still try to be more traditional, but now buyers agents and buyers have control of it. Sellers are going to, I see a lot of instances where sellers are going to pay a lot more than they normally have. I'm not going to go into this in a public video, but if you want to talk to me, it's going to happen. Let me give you a little reason why I know 100% this is going to happen, because the way this is going to work out and how we're going to do things to change has been going on in commercial real estate forever. Talk to any strictly commercial agent. The standard commissions that, are typical commissions that agents make in residential for little properties and a lot of work of a lot lower than the traditional percentages or amounts that commercial agents charge. Now, if you want to debate expertise and what they do, but no, it's higher. Traditional. I say that, and I'm not throwing out any numbers, but this has been proven. This system works. It's been done in commercial. There's no MLS for commercial. There's LoopNet and other things. There's no advertisement of what sellers are going to offer a commercial property to buyers agents. The buyers of commercial property most likely have a buyer contract of what they're going to compensate for, and they negotiate it. Usually the seller's paying, or they negotiate the buyer pays for them. It's been working forever in commercial. You've talked to most commercial people that have been in the business commercial a while. They're like, oh, I don't know why you guys haven't been doing this for so long. And don't worry about it. So, and other things too, commercial agents, there's a lot of money involved in a lot of those sales. Do their buyers skip over them to go there? Are they getting cut out? Yeah, that happens, but their whole industry didn't fall apart because they have that. Next, in all the changes that I've mentioned, the internet, signs, everything, even when I got into real estate, it was an extreme buyer's market. I know. So if you haven't been in real estate in extreme buyer's market, you haven't been through changes. I'll just say this, have you ever had a buyer call you up and you're like, okay, I want to go see a certain number of houses, and then you look on the MLS and you're like, oh my God, there's 100 houses just like that. There's too many. I can't show them all of it. We got to cut it down. No, if you haven't been in a market like that, you haven't been in real estate long enough to understand everything. I hope I didn't offend anybody there, but it's true. When it's an extreme buyer's market, when there's too many houses for sale, the sellers will do anything to sell their house. Will they pay buyer's agents commission? Yes. Will they pay buyer's agents a premium, a bonus on top of a traditional amount? Yes. They will. Will they paint their house purple, turn it upside down, and remodel the whole thing to get their house sold? Yes, that will happen someday. And then who's got so many agents are worried about sellers paying buyer's agents because it's such a seller's market. Don't worry. The commission has been negotiable since day one. So anybody that wants to, I have agents that as soon as they say to me, "Hey, Tony, I'm really worried because if I ask the seller to pay, the buyer asks the seller to pay, it puts my buyer at a disadvantage in multiple offer situation." Listen to me. Listen to this again. Tony, I have a buyer. I'm worried about asking the seller to pay a commission and the buyer asking them to pay me the commission because it will put my buyer at a disadvantage in multiple offer situation. That's 1000% false. False. Uh, Call me. I'll go over with an hour because the commission has been negotiable all of the time. Then I'm sorry to say this. If you think that you just don't know what's been happening. So I tell this agent, they go, yes, I missed out on multiple offers in the past. I go, I guarantee you one or more of the ones you missed out, the buyer's agent that got the offer through might have waived their commission or the buyer paid their agent directly. And when I say that, I hear silence, crickets. They're like, what? Yes. As a broker, 500 agents. I haven't had one in the last week or two, but I get calls every month from agents. Hey, I got a multiple offer situation. My buyer's trying to figure out how to make it better. Can I have my buyer pay my commission directly or pay a flat fee? Yes. And then they write in the offer, buyer, no commission to buyer will pay buyer's agent. Yes. Have I had agents call me up? Hey, Tony, this is my daughter. She's buying a house. We've missed out on other properties. What can I do? Can I waive my commission as a buyer's agent, pay the office fees that we have, because we don't let agents do it for free. But can I pay it myself or have her pay it and waive my commission? Yes. Agents buying their own properties. Hey, Tony, we have an office minimum that agents have to charge or make. But hey, Tony, I'm buying this house. The commission's X. Can I just get it instead of taking the whole commission? Can I tell the sellers I'm crediting that commission back to them, just paying the office minimum? Yes. It's been going on already. That's why nothing has changed. Now it's all open. So the agents that say they think that the asking the seller to pay a commission will put their agent or buyer at a disadvantage. They just didn't know this has been happening all the time. So you're going to have to compete. You always had against you just never knew this. You never knew other agents were already doing this. Especially I've had agents that go, hey, Tony, I'm selling these people a house. It's X amount of making this amount of commission. I want to help them out because I can't sell their house here without buying a house here. Can I help them with the commissions and the credit back to the seller and make make the deal better for the seller so we could get them a house so we could sell their house here? Yes, it's been going on. It's been going on already. So don't worry about that. Unless you're talking to a broker, a manager, an owner, or that has had experience talking to agents over the last several years or more and understand that this has been happening already, then that's a problem. Agents are talking to other agents and they never, and most agents are going, hey, I have a buyer, and they never thought to reduce, ask their buyers to pay them directly to, or credit the commission back to the seller to make their buyer better. They just thought the seller is offering X and everybody's going to accept that. And we're just talking about price of the house in terms. No, nope, hasn't happened. Don't listen to anybody that says anything different than what I know for a fact. So the next thing I wanted to tackle is prices. You as an agent, every agent, I feel now with having the discussion with the buyer gets to really be in control of what they charge for their services. You're an independent contractor, you're your own business, charge whatever you want. I'm telling you, I personally, I don't take any personal buyers or sellers anymore, haven't in years, because I just help my agent. I had to give up my personal business many years ago to focus just on my agents. But if I had a buyer call me up and say, Tony, I want you and only you. I'm not buying a house through your company or another agent or anybody else. I want you because you've been in the business over 30 years. I want your expertise, and I want you to get in your car, and I want you to drive me around to 100 houses, and I want to do this. I promise you, I'm not giving you a number or percentage. I will be the highest paid buyer's agent in our marketplace if I have to do that. If someone wants to hire me, I will be the most expensive buyer's agent. I will call up a listing agent and explain why. So let me take that. When you, as a buyer's agent, I feel buyer's agents to communicate with listing agents a little bit more about telling their story of why, whatever they're charging and why. Because sellers sometimes, and some listing agents think you're all on the same playing field. Like you just got a call yesterday. This is the first house you showed. You have less than an hour worth of walking around the house into it, and you're writing an offer and you're getting paid X or asking for X. No, call the other agent, explain why. My opinion is that I've been, like story, like, hey, Bob, listing agent, I've been working with these people for 2 years. This is the 200th house. I missed my kids' birthday parties for the last 2 years. And we've written so many offers. And the buyer wants me to make this because of all my time and effort. And I know it's more than traditional percentages, but explain to the seller, the buyers know that. They might be paying a premium in price because they want me to get paid this because they wanted to hire me, and I'm not cheap. So please explain to your seller, you're not just paying me because I'm selling your house. The buyer's asking you to compensate me through the price of the house, through the sale, because of all of these things and expertise I gave them up until this point. And I'm not cheap. Yeah, go to your buyer, go to your seller. The broker owner, 30 years experience. They wanted who they felt the best of the best in the industry, and they want you to pay for it. Just like attorneys charge different, accountants charge different. People charge for your time. Have anybody example? Contractors. You know why it costs so much for some contractors to come out to your house? Because they have to pick and choose. There's only one crew or one person, so they got to go, well, I'm raising my prices because there's only one of me, and I can't go to everybody and do every job, so the people that get me are going to pay more, right? Same with realtors. You as an individual realtor could have 30 listings, but can you have 30 active buyers? The only reason why you could have more buyers today is because there's not as many houses for sale, but you can't have as many buyers. But if a buyer wants you personally, and you have 10 other buyers that want to use you today, what are you going to do as a business to decide? You're going to raise your prices. That's how you decide. So there's only one of me, and if 10 people want me to see houses or want to be on my an agreement with me, my prices go up. If I need, will there be agents that are desperate and their prices go down? Yes, that's any industry. But you get to decide. That's the beauty of what the changes are coming up. So the buyer and the buyer's agent get to decide, the seller and the seller's agent get to decide, and it's negotiated, and you have contracts. And last, I know it's been a long video, as I want to talk about respect, listing agent to buyer's agent. We in real estate, we'll say buyer side of things, have been respecting the listing agreement as in stone forever. What I mean by that, when we as buyers agents and buyers go into an offer, have you ever had a buyer say, hey, let me know what the listing agent is making, and I don't want the listing agent to make more than 1%? Have you ever had that? No, we have, because we're not used to that. We've never had a buyer go, hey, I don't want to overpay for this house, and I don't want this. I want to know what the seller is getting paid for, because maybe the buyer feels that the price of the house is increasing. Because who knows? Maybe that, that listing agent's asking for a crazy percentage. And the buyer's like, I feel like I'm paying for that in the price because they're paying this. So in our industry, we haven't been 100% transparent with what the listing agent makes, because we just said, well, that's between the seller and the listing agent, but we now know 100% what the buyer's agent are making. And then for some reason that becomes more open for discussion. Does that make sense? Because it's out there in the open. So the respect I'm telling listing agents is this, because again, if you haven't been in an extreme buyer's market where there's 80 houses just like each other for sale, a buyer will ask for the stars and the moons, and someday buyers might ask, I want to know what the seller is paying the listing agent because my offer is that they only make this. Think about that. Yes, can that happen? Yes, because we do it to buyers agents. So here's the respect I'm asking for buyers and agents and listing agents to do in the future. Respect is that when a buyer's agent calls a listing agent, explain, I have a buyer's agreement. They put in writing that they request any house they buy, the sellers pay them. Don't have the money, they don't want to, whatever. If you don't want to, even if the buyer gives you the authorization to even say that, they just say they need this, they need it paid. I want that respect from the listing agent on how they respect your agreement with your seller. So of course, it's up to the seller, it's up to the buyer to negotiate this, but go back and don't have that same respect, because it could be turned on you someday. If you go back to your seller, oh yeah, we could get them down and explain it's in stone. They have an agreement, but of course, buyer and seller negotiate. I'm just saying that, because what happens if you send back, if you have that one listing that it's been on the market over a year, the sellers are desperate, they need to get it done, and the buyer's agent says this to you, and then you kick it back, the seller doesn't want to pay you a commission, and then the buyer says, well, I don't want the seller to pay you a commission either. Can a buyer ask for that? Yes, buyers can ask for anything. Put the house upside down, put it, build a fence, dig a pond, whatever. They could ask for anything, buyers and sellers. As far as I know, my opinion, my experience, they really could ask for almost anything monetarily. I mean, are there loan restrictions? Totally different. Totally different. There's loan restrictions. Sellers, buyers can't offer. So just want to make sure it's clear. When I say this, because I have agents say that buyer and seller can agree to anything, and they're almost anything. And they say, well, they can't give more than this. I'm like, no, that's a loan requirement. It can't pay X more than closing costs or X or this. It's not, if they're paying cash or whatever, they could agree to almost anything on that. They want to include chattel and furniture and tractors. Yeah, can they include that's for them to work out. But if sometimes there's loan restrictions, totally different. But what I'm trying to say is we have to have respect for each other. when we have a buyer's agent that has agreement and they explain, hey, it's in stone, we can't move it, just like your listing agreement's in stone. You have two people, two parties where the buyer asking for this, seller's asking for this, and we have to try to do our best ethically, professionally, respectfully explain to our clients what's happening. What I mean is that if you have a seller, like my opinion, if you have a seller before you even list the property says, I am not paying a buyer's agent this, my personal opinion, you got to be honest and you got to be with the seller says, I can't guarantee that. And they'll say, well, I'm not giving you a listing unless you guarantee I'm not going to pay a buyer's agent. I can't guarantee that because it's not in the best interest of you. A buyer might come to you, ask you to pay closing costs, pay their agent, paint the house, do this, but their price, their terms are far better than everybody else. And explain it. So any seller that gets into a listing agreement, in my opinion, and thinks that it's their best interest not to pay a buyer's agent before they even see any offers is getting bad advice from their listing agent. Is explaining to them, we don't know. Let's wait. Let's wait. Like I've said, I'm not paying any buyer's closing costs. And explaining there's situations where you might, because that's the best offer. That's the best terms. I'm not doing any repairs. Yeah, I understand that takes time and effort and hiring people. I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. Before they even see the offers. So part of my thoughts are with this, and I appreciate if you're already this far into my long video, is that listen, this is all for the better. Buyers are going to have contracts with their buyers agents. Whatever, it could be a day, could be a year, could be $1, could be $100, could be $1,000, could be $20,000, whatever it is. You get to decide that with your buyer and decide who's paying. Buyer's age, a buyer, seller, combination of both, or talk to their lender. Maybe it could be in closing costs. Maybe they say, hey, I'm getting a gift. My father's going to pay you. If it's cash, who cares? Anybody could pay. Just the buyer's responsible, make sure we get paid, but talk to the lender. Could be lender restrictions on things like that. But it's just going to be like listings. We've buyers, sellers, contract, come to negotiations. That's it. That's all it is. Just like we can't guarantee a seller exactly what they're going to sell their house for. We can't guarantee a seller 100% they're not going to, in their best interest, not to pay someone. Can the seller say, I 100% won't? Yeah, you can, but I can't guarantee that you're not going to get an offer that you might change your mind. And I wouldn't want a listing like that. My personal opinion, I wouldn't want a listing with a seller that says I absolutely won't pay a buyer's agent because I just explained we don't know. It could be something, could be nothing, it could be a lot, it could be a little, but let's be open. Let's see the offers. Let's see the offers. And keep on going. One last thing too is what if and I have a lot of agents, I still want to get sellers to offer something to buyer's agents. Yes, you can. You can. Nothing's changed. Sellers can still offer before they see offers. They could call that agent up, the listing agent up, say, hey, your seller open offer. Yeah, the seller's offering it, whatever. But the buyers could ask for more. They could ask for less. But there's one thing you got to understand. And one thing in the rule is this, I'm trying to explain to agents in the rules. It's 100% clear. You have to have an exact dollar amount or percentage or a combination on your agreement, and you can't earn more. You can't earn more. If you say, just throwing out numbers, hey, buyer, I will make 1%. You're paying me or the seller pay me. And then you call up that listing agent and that listing agent say, hey, my seller's willing to pay 3%. You can't have it. You can't do it. That's part of the rules. You have already agreed with your buyer. You're only going to make 1%. And if any of you are hearing anything different, call me. That's not the case. It's false information. You can't do it. Or I've had agents tell me, well, I heard from this person, that person, and they're trying to find a way around it. Same thing. I'm sorry. I'm going to continue to go. I'm in training mode. We can't advertise commission. So many agents, well, I could put it on my this, or I could put it on a text message or send it out to agents in an email. We can't advertise commission anywhere. I'm telling our agent, little under the hood information, don't even text it to people. Don't even tell people. I don't even know if they're going to stop that. Like you can't, you might, we right now, we can't advertise it in writing anywhere, like emails or I don't know, a website or that. They're just going to there's so many agents trying to get around things. They're going to say you can't even talk about commission. That's what I think is going to happen over the next, by the end of the year. They're going to say if an agent calls, you can't even text them. You can't even say my seller's going to offer this because that's advertised. Again, that's my opinion. I don't know 100%, but I think it's going to get to the point. Basically, I think it's going to get to the point where buyers just bring their offers, seller look at it, and that's it. I think that's about it without going more and more. But one other thing that's I always end with my agents is listing agents. I'll open up the hood about our office a little bit to anybody who's watching this, is that I interpret the rule is that you can't show a property or work with a buyer without signing an agreement of some sort. Working with a buyer is you physically going to a house. That's you working with a buyer is you talking about the house with a buyer. Anything about real estate, talking with a buyer is working with a buyer. You don't represent them because you might be the listing agent. I've even seen videos of other brokers and managers and agents saying, oh, listing agents don't get to sign because they're not working with the buyer. Working and representing are two different things. When you're listing agent, my legal opinion is you are representing and working with that seller. When you're showing a property, you're working with that buyer. You don't represent them, but you're working. You're doing work. You're talking to them. You're getting in your car. You're showing them. That's working. It doesn't say in the rules in the settlement that representing, it says working. Just like a consumer guide to agency. Even if you look, even if you are represent or in agency relationship is with the seller on your listing, when you show your properties to buyers, you always had, and they had no agent, you had to give them a consumer guide to agency. If you weren't, you're not doing it correctly. Now, same similar thing, you're going to have some type of agreement with them. Whatever agreement that your company decides, a dual agency agreement, maybe unrepresented buyer agreement. I have other agent friends and broker friends in other states that have unrepresented buyer agreements. So when they show their properties to their listings and they don't have an agent, they have an unrepresented buyer agreement. Means explains what they're going to do, what work they're going to do, but they explain to them they don't represent them and don't look out for their best interests, but are going to help them. If you, so many times I've had agents not understand the difference. So the point I'm getting at, some people think that more buyers are going to call the listing agents directly because they don't want to hire a buyer's agents. Two things. My opinion, putting that in there, is that one is the listing agent is still going to have the buyers sign something. Yep. And two, you as a listing agent with your seller's permission and disclose to your sellers what you would do in your situation should be in your listing agreement. My opinion, my legal opinion, again, I'm saying opinion a lot because I don't want anybody to say, hey, this is law or this way. I'm saying what I do, what my interpretation is that you can charge that buyer. So as a listing agent, me, if I have a listing, imagine me, technically, I'm the broker of our office. I have hundreds and hundreds of listings. These are my listings and agents work for the brokerage. So legally have all these listings. If all these buyers that had unrepresented buyers are calling me as the broker because these are my listings and want me to show all of these listings, I don't have to. But as an agent or broker of a company, and a buyer called you, said, hey, this is your listing. I don't have an agent. I want you to show it to me tonight at 9 o'clock. I don't have to. I don't have to. I don't have to work with that buyer. I could choose to. It's open market. No, no. Well, how am I going to see it? Got to hire an agent. Got to hire an agent to see the house or get some type of representation, or here's my agreement to work with you, and this is what I charge, or this is how I get compensated to help you with buying my listing. Does that make sense? So make sure you talk to your broker, your manager, your team leader. What is your policy in the office when someone calls you as an unrepresented buyer? Again, it's going to differ from company to company, but my interpretation of this is that we as listing agents are not automatically required, unless it's in the listing agreement, to show the property to all buyers for free or not charge for our services to help those buyers. So buyers are going to start finding out, if they don't have their own agent, that when they call listing agent up, they still might be asked to pay. It's not free. You don't get me for free. Well, the seller's paying you. Well, no, the seller's paying me for what I'm doing for them. Who's paying me for what I'm doing for you? Does that make sense? That's normal business. You don't just get to walk into a business and say, well, I don't have to pay you anything. Why? Well, because you're getting compensated here. No, I'm working for these people, but now who's doing the work for you? If I'm doing the work for you, this is how I get compensated. And you have to have an agreement with that buyer, even though you're listing agent, of how you get compensated. It could be for free. Could be say, thank you. Thank you for seeing my listing. I will help you. And you don't have to pay anything or $1 or a percentage. You have it open. It's an open market. You can do that. My legal opinion and what I'm interpreting and talking to our attorneys and all of that. But anybody that is with another company, talk to your company to make sure exactly what they're taking. Because technically, the broker, the principal broker, decides what forms, what the procedures are, what the policies are. And we have ours pretty much 99% done and ready for this changes coming up. So that's it. Want to get this announcement out to all agents because there's so many conversations going on, and I'm seeing TikToks and YouTube videos and these real estate experts across the country or world that are not experts and giving people advice because they just don't have the experience. And two, they are not the broker and owner of an office, so they're not responsible. They're just agents. I don't mean that in any disrespect to any agents, is that anything you do could just get you in trouble. But when you talk to a broker, an owner of an office, we have to make sure, because I'm going to have over 500 agents doing what we tell them to do. And if they don't do it correctly, could affect me personally. It's so easy for one agent to tell another agent what they should and shouldn't do because they can't get in trouble. They don't get hurt. Unless you're talking to your broker or a management level license. This is a pet peeve I have of so many agents giving advice to other agents that are not management level licenses, because you're supposed to be either a management level license and or a broker, the principal broker of an office, to give in the state of Ohio Division of Real Estate's license law advice on how to do things. So make sure you check with your company, who are those legally required people? Don't just listen to another agent say, Jane or Joe told me this is how I do things. If you do something wrong, Jane or Joe is not getting in trouble. They're like, oops, sorry you listened to me. Listen to the right people. Okay, now I'm done. So that's it. Have a great July 2nd if you're watching this today. and have a great 4th of July weekend. These changes are coming up on August 15th or before, and I'm here for any agent before, after, during, forever, and help you through this. And it's all going to be better, I promise. Okay, have a great day. Bye-bye.